the book a plug. So Everyday Inspiration for Change is Minola's book, and
My baby
weighing in,
doorstopper.
weighing in at almost 500 pages of absolute pure
Madness.
gold.
Yeah.
Um, so
Such a
it
beautiful
is
book.
so damn good. Hello, Amy.
Thank you.
How are you, my
Oh my
friend?
goodness, my screen is filling up with all these beautiful people. Hi, Kimberly. Hi, Tom.
Hello, hello.
Have you met
Hello,
Amy
Kimberly.
yet?
We haven't met. No, not yet, not yet. Hi, Alyssa.
Amy's a smarty pants. She's a Harvard grad. She's just a smarty pants. So be
One little
careful.
girl
She's gonna
here.
ask you some tough questions.
I
Ooh.
love that love. Keep sending it my way. I'll take it. I'll take it.
Hello, Elisa. I know I say this all the time, but if you're not following Elisa's content, so damn good. So good. Hello, Deborah.
Hello, Scott. It's nice to see you.
Good to see you too. All right, let's get this thing kicked off. So, the power hours are just as a refresher for people, they're your ability as a member to raise your hand and say, hey, I'm an expert in this area and I'd love to share my knowledge when it comes to, and you could fill in the blank. And, I what I love about these is the legend series that we do, because they're people that you're used to seeing on TV or whatever, are they get so much attention and love. But let's face it, 750 people, that's where the power is. It's everybody's got a gift or something. Now, whether they want to jump on a Zoom and share it in this type of format, that's a different story. But we have so many amazing people in this community. So I love it when somebody raises their hand. And this is not the first time that Minola's raised her hand, thank goodness. Um, but she's in Switzerland. It is 6 o'clock at night on a Friday night. And she is just, I would say, one of my just all-time favorite people. And I'm not saying that because you've knit me stuff. She's very talented. She has a multitude of talents. So anyway, what's up? Talk to us.
So hello everyone. I'm deeply, deeply touched and humbled and just so very happy to be spending a bit of Friday with you. It's a long weekend here in Switzerland. Yesterday it was Swiss National Day. A lot of cheese, a lot of chocolate. No bad banking. It was a bank holiday, thankfully. But I was so looking forward to this. And thank you, Scott, for the intro. Otherwise, no pressure. You always do that to me. But today I was thinking about just having an open conversation about one of my favorite topics, and that is change, whether in life or at work. And are these really that separate as we believe they are? No, not really. So just change in different slices of our lives. I didn't want to do let me share my screen. So no fancy PowerPoint slides, just an open conversation, and even more so, just an open floor for any questions or reflections or just whatever pops up in your mind when you hear about change, and also as we will go through our conversation. And I was thinking maybe we will just ease in our time together. I can say a little bit about myself so you understand why I'm here and why I speak about change. And then what I would love to do is I would love to pass the e-mic around as you appear on my screen, and really ask for a short introduction of yourselves, and also what is the loudest thing on your mind as we are looking into spending almost a full hour together. Does that work for everyone? Yeah?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So My name is Minola, although Starbucks disagrees with me on a daily basis, but I learned to pick my fights. I am originally from Romania. I'm actually half Romanian, half Hungarian. That's a longer story requiring something stronger than water and a lot of childhood stories. I'm a serial immigrant, so Switzerland is my 17th country in 20 years. I can pack and unpack anything and find nothing ever again. I am a journalist by trade, actually. So I had a scholarship with Syracuse University, upstate New York, and I studied journalism. And I started out as a very young, very naive investigative journalist. And after about 8 years, I switched. So I've been doing change work and not change management work. And I will let you in on why. So I've been doing change work for 2 decades now. And been doing it across industries, across roles. I'm also a recovering corporate consultant. And I had the joy of joining the Outlier project January 1st, 2023, when I found myself awake and frustratingly sober on January 1st morning. And I was like, okay, what should I do? So I joined the Outlier project, one of the best decisions I've ever made. My full-time job at the moment is Global Change and Transformation Lead with Syngenta. So I'm based in Basel. But I always challenge people on the fact that work and job are not necessarily interchangeable. So my job is just a slice of the work that I do. I'm also part of several communities. I teach. I do quite a bit of public speaking. I write. I work with different NGOs and UN agencies on their own change journeys. So quite a bit of good mischief, hopefully. So this is me, and I will wrap my blabathon up here. And let's see, Jason. Now I do know you, but I'm wondering what are you most curious about for the next 50 minutes, a little bit over 50 minutes?
Well, so I'm a big fan, and I keep going back to the chapter on the moon because it speaks to me more. Well, I'll read a chapter, then I'll go back and reread the chapter on the moon. So if later on you want me to just tell everybody what that chapter says, I could probably recite it because I've read it so many times. But I think for me, what I would like to get out is probably about how change, and you talk about this in the book, and we've talked about this in person, but how change is all around us, and being aware of that change and being okay with it. So not just being, going past I like the idea of going past awareness to action. I do that with the nonprofit. I try to do that in a lot of things in my life. So I appreciate what you're saying, and I would love to discuss that in some shape, form, or fashion. Change all around us and how we go from awareness to action and realizing that it's okay.
Thank you. Kathy.
I am here just to hear your voice. And I mean that in the deepest of ways. You are such a valuable part of our community, and I really have missed you and interacting with you. And I have your book at the ready all the time, and the words in it are always comforting and thought-provoking and interesting to me. That they are like the knitted shawl that you made for me. It just, I don't know. I love them. I love your words, and I love you. That's what I want to hear more of.
Thank you. There's a funny story about my voice. I don't know if all of you know Kofi Duhaji. So on top of him being my brother from another mother, he's also my publisher. So my book came out into the world through his awesome flying wings. And when the book came out and people started reading it, almost without exception, people sent me notes like, I'm reading it and I hear your voice in my head. So Kofi sent me this note like, congratulations, you are the first author to have an audiobook embedded in paperback. So yes, that's a first in the world of publishing. Thank you. Kim, so great to see you.
Minola. Oh, Tim.
Go ahead. So great to meet you, Minola. I was just looking at my notes and I first heard your name from Frank Cruz back in December, and we've been on the same call a couple of times, but I haven't really had a chance to learn more about you. I currently market myself as a transformation leader, so creating and guiding people through change. So change management is a key part of that, but I just go to a little bit different place in creating and driving that change. And so I'm on a big project to do some of that with the sales team here. So always interested in learning more about change and helping people through that process.
Thank you. And now Kim with a K.
Yeah, and I stepped into Kimberly. Yes, so lovely to see you, Minola. I'm also a fan. You know, I will say I've also spent my career leading people through change. And what I'm always curious about is the moment that we choose to accept it and take the action. I'm always curious about what inspires that moment. So I'll say similar to chasing the awareness to action, but like what has you finally say, okay, I'm doing the thing.
Yeah. Tom.
I don't think you need any introduction to me. But I mean, I'm always a big fan, and I love being here for I always call them the magic moments of Minola. When you read EIFC, that's what you get. You get your daily magic moment with Minola. And Minola, I think I developed that skill early on. When I read and I've met the author, I always hear the book in their voice, always.
Ay. Thank you. Sandy, so good to meet you.
Good to meet you. I'm the newbie here today, right? I'm so excited that you're a book author on change. I do not have your book, but I'm going to get your book because I surround myself. I love change, right? Not everyone loves change. It's that direction of something unknown, the adventure, the roller coaster. What I would like to hear more about today, with your wisdom, is the transitional sting, right? Kind of have that transitional sting that, how to prepare people for that, or I'm excited. I can't wait to get your book, but just anything, change is always the unknown, the adventure, the roller coaster, and not everyone looks at it as an adventure. But I would like, if anything, more information about the transition to it, making that decision, taking that step, jumping on that ride. That's what I'm looking for today. So nice to meet you.
Very nice. Thank you. Amy, looking forward to some great questions. Make them difficult.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I'm here. I didn't know what to expect. I just saw that this was happening, didn't know anything about it, wanted to spend time with some great people, and I'm already so glad I'm here. Also, I've got the book in my Amazon cart just now. And yeah, change, similar to Kimberly, I think that change has been just a part of my career, and promoting change and helping people through that as a consultant to philanthropic foundations, and then also working more recently within organizations. I think that anything that you have to share. I'm so interested. I love that there are people that this is the professional, they are change leaders. And I think any of us that walk into an organization with any kind of proposal to do anything different, we are change leaders. And that there's an opportunity all the time to smooth the way, make change go smoother and more effective for everybody on board. So I'm just looking forward to hearing what you have to share.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Deborah.
Hello. I am here because I love this group. Anything that Scott and Kathy are doing, I sign up and I show up, and I'm always better because of it. I don't know anything about you. I don't know anything about your work. So I'm looking forward to this. And what you said earlier about an introduction, I absolutely positively would love one.
Thank you. Colleen.
Hello, I'm very similar to Deborah. I am here because I had the privilege of talking to Kathy just before this, and she said, well, Minola's on and she's going to talk about change. And I was like, I'm in. So, and the reason it's such an important topic to me is if you know anything about me, anybody on the phone, I do a lot of strategic planning work, and I have a niche in growth strategies, which, if you know anything about taking a company to scale, it requires significant change. And so it's one of the core components of the work that I do. And I love learning from other people about their perspectives on what works and what doesn't, because there's definitely a lot of practitioners that do more harm than good. And that's what we want to protect against collectively. So I'm just fascinated by the topic and can't wait to hear you.
Thank you so very much, Colleen. Derek, good to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you and good to see everybody. Change is really interesting. I think I'd really like to hear your lens and perspective. When I started my entrepreneurial journey 2.5 years ago and did my TEDx, the big question that I was trying to answer was, why don't we change when things are good? Right? Why do we wait till we hit the wall at 500 miles an hour? Why does it take diabetes to change our diet? Why does it take cancer to change the way that we love? Why does it take a relationship breakdown to become a better human? And I tied it all back into Star Wars as the tipping point, where we really started to follow the hero journey as not a way to learn lessons. Oh, nice, Scott. Not a way to learn lessons, but a way to actually live, and how this has brought us into a hero culture lifestyle where we're addicted to chaos and crisis, where the actual objective is to pursue a life of calm and contentment, and to be able to harness change as the catalyst to create the life that you want, and the fact that it's available at every moment. And yeah, the topic fascinates me. It has changed, obviously it's changed the way that I work and I live and I think and I grow. So yeah, curious to hear your lens on that.
Thank you.
And Minola, let me just add this. There are a lot of good TED Talks. There are not as many great TED Talks. Derek's is great. Great. Like off the charts good. So check it out.
Will definitely do. Amy. We can't see you, but we hope that you can hear us, and we hope that we can hear you. Oh, not Amy Lucky, but Amy Van Buren. I think I am pronouncing it correctly. AMIE. No? Okay. Alisa.
Hi everyone. Kind of similar to the other Amy who shared. I'm just showing up. Like I didn't really have, like I saw that you were speaking, and I haven't been on one of your power hours before, and I want to just learn more. I didn't really necessarily have like something. Yeah, I wasn't really thinking ahead with on my part, but I am facing a lot of change, so I'm very interested in just hearing your thoughts about it. And yeah, I'm just here because I love these power hours. I've been trying to make more of them, and just I see you on LinkedIn, and I've seen you in like other Outlier project meetings here and there. So I'm just excited to hear more from you and learn from you.
Thank you, Anna. It's been a lifetime since we spoke.
Exactly. And I'm a huge fan because we share the mutual interest of loving French bulldogs. And I have her book that I have started and trying to get through. My ADD keeps me bouncing around from several of the books because Scott keeps promoting more and more books and I keep buying them. And anyway, just glad to be here. I came on to Mighty Networks to buy a People Over Everything t-shirt, and then I saw you were live, and so here I am, multitasking. Glad to be here.
Thank you. And thank you so very much for taking the time and the curiosity to be here. And Amy, I saw that you can hear us. I was just wondering, do you have a particular curiosity for the rest of our time together? Something that you really want to hear us speak about?
Yeah. So I had a very quick stint as a leader for like 3 seconds and decided I didn't want to be part of that organization. So the pitch for me to join was, we need a disruptor. We want change. Go try to get everybody on board for change, and nobody wanted to make the changes. So it's like, I can't work in this environment if we can't move forward. So how do you kind of evaluate when you're looking on the outside and they say, I want change, and you get on the inside and find out there's no change that they actually want to make? It's just words.
Thank you. Oof. So let's see. The first thing that I'm gonna talk about is how we tend to think through a binary filter, like we either love change or we hate change, and that's rarely the situation. Whenever I meet someone new, and I get to meet new people on a daily basis, and relocating always brings new people in my life. They're like, so what do you do? And I'm like, I do change. I'm a change manager. I do change for a living. And they go like, oh, you must love change. So I take a deep breath and I count to 37 and I tell them, now let me ask you a question. My mom, she's a doctor. Now, would you expect her to never get sick? So we tend to believe that if I do change for a living, I never get supermarket rage when I walk into a supermarket 5 minutes before they close and I find out that they've rearranged the aisles. So that happens. And it also happens that I have my moments when I feel tired and overwhelmed and pissed off. But that doesn't make me disengaged. That doesn't make me, like, oh, I don't believe in this change, or I don't want it to happen. It just makes me human. And I don't know about you, but most of the questions that I get when I work with people is this the last change? And when is this change going to end? And why are we changing again? So one way in which I ended up reframing change, and I speak about this, is think about change as if it were an electrocardiogram, where ups and downs are good, the flat line is not so good. So why would we aspire for a flat line-like situation in any aspect of our life and work? But then I was recently on a podcast, and if you can follow, there are these two wonderful guys, and we ended up doing some work together called The Lateral Space, and they have a podcast called The Lateral Dialogues. And we talked about, funnily enough, the leader's responsibility when it comes to change. And before we talk about any action and any task, I do believe that leaders can do better in how they understand the power of how they speak about change. And this comes with a very, very short story, and it pretty much ties into, Derek, what you shared. Why do we only think of change when we need to correct something? So it was very early days into my job with Syngenta, about 3.5 years ago. It was my second week, and I was doing my onboarding conversations. And one of the senior leaders that I was supposed to work with, who in the meantime became seniorer, we were having a conversation, and they were like, yeah, I don't think we will ever work together. I have nothing to fix. I don't need change management. I don't have a burning platform. So I smiled and I said, I'm so happy to hear this. What's your burning ambition? But what that triggered was this realization that change management got to have this stigma of being corrective, and we use it when we need to implement things. Oftentimes when we are dealing with change resistance or change fatigue. And in the last chapter of my book, so I put it in writing, I might as well say it out loud. I oftentimes feel that we use change management as the Viagra to project management. When things aren't going smoothly or aren't going properly, then we look for someone who can be a change manager, who ideally can work in blissful isolation, and they can make everybody happy. So one of my personal and professional crusades is to just obliterate change management as an expression. The only environment where we use it is within the workplace. And what I have learned is that people hear management the loudest. It's like they don't even hear change, they just hear management. And then you have this whole industry that toolified the vocabulary and the conversation and the thinking around change. We became over-reliant on frameworks and methodologies and tools, and we're not even conscious of how we think about change, how we use the very word. So one thing that I challenge almost on a daily basis is, what do we mean by change, especially with senior leaders? Because we can mean two things, either individually or combined. For most leaders within organizations, be it corporate, not-for-profit, what they mean by change is the decision and the outcome of their decisions. That's the change. And then change management is how that outcome comes to be. And that happens below them, because that is execution, that is implementation. They made their job, they made the decision, they have the vision of the outcome. Now the change managers or the business process managers or the business change managers or the transformation leads or whoever happens to be in HR, now they can be the change managers and come with processes and Excel spreadsheets and PowerPoint slides and make that change happen. So the most critical work for me is to make people aware of how the words that they use and how they speak of change creates echo chambers within the organizations that they are part of. And also another thing is, because change management came in the workplace, riding the wave of project management or program management, and it's very, very linked to how the projects are being managed. Change management promises a destination. So we tell people that through change management, we are taking them from point A to point B. And we're promising that point B will be stable and sustainable, hopefully also scalable, which is no longer the case. And that goes back to, is this the last change? And why are we changing again? Because that's how we speak of change and change management, as the process of getting from point A to point B, not as a way of navigating every day within the workplace. Also, one mistake that we keep on making is we reserve change as a label for big upheavals, digital evolutions, strategic turnarounds, one shift or another, reorg, restructure. but what really, really chips away at our resources of resilience and at our resources of curiosity, at our resources of patience and compassion, are small changes, imperceptible small changes every day that pile up. And those we almost never intentionally acknowledge and manage and allocate resources to. So I will just take a brief moment here and ask if this resonates in any way, if anything came to mind, and if there's anything that you feel inspired to share. Yes, Tom.
I think you're right. It is a lot of the communication and the execution where the problems come in. I found in my career in the change management pieces, normally where the ball gets dropped is in the communication of what we're doing and why we're doing it. And I think a lot of leaders fail to take the opportunity to put it on multiple platforms. They think because they say it once that it's in gold, everybody got it, everybody understands it. And that's not true. You need to be able to communicate it multiple ways with multiple different teams and consistently reinforce and positively reinforce the message. But that's where I find the ball gets dropped most.
Yeah. Tim, I see you raised your hand. Just give me please 10 seconds because I just want to ask a question. How many of you have heard at any given moment in time in your career, a leader when the organization was going through a transformation saying, oh, there's nothing new since our last town hall or team meeting or whatever. Let's cancel the next one. We have nothing to say. How many of you have heard that? Honest. Yeah. So whenever I hear that, my question is, if we don't have anything new to say, how about we get curious about anything new to hear or listen to? So, Tim.
I was just going to add on what Tom said there, and one of the things that I see commonly with leaders is as you move up in the organization, your vision's further out. So in their mind, this change is done, and we're moving on to the next thing that they're thinking about. They forget that there's people in their organization that just found out about it. So sometimes they got to step back and go, okay, I got to meet this person where they are, rather than just communicating the same old thing, because it doesn't work. They're in a different place than the leader is. And so that's what we got to remember sometimes with communication around change.
Yeah, absolutely. Kimberly.
I would echo all of that. And I really appreciated the focus on the listening, because what I often found was when I was working with leaders on those communications and there were things that they didn't know the answers to yet, then they wanted to just avoid the conversation rather than specifically saying, we don't know yet. Or maybe you're saying, we don't know and we'd love to hear your ideas. Or like it was just sort of this, that it for me, it always felt like this missed opportunity, knowing that, as you beautifully articulated, the leaders made the decision, but the people are going to make the change reality. And so the more we can do to engage them in creating that reality, the more likely they are to move through it, even a challenge with some positive action.
You actually gave me an idea, and would you indulge me with a 20-second exercise? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. Do you have a sheet of paper nearby? Hopefully one that you won't be using after. Just a regular sheet of paper. Okay. So we will do the following exercise. I will ask you to just hold a sheet of paper in your hands, and I will ask you to close your eyes And you will have to follow a set of 3 incredibly simple instructions. However, you can ask me questions and you can't peek on your screen and see what other people are doing. So, everybody has a sheet of paper? Wonderful. Close your eyes and let the fun begin. Please fold the sheet of paper in 2. Fold the sheet of paper in 2 again. Rip off one corner. Now everybody stops. Open your eyes, unfold your sheet of paper and show it in the camera. Everybody stops. Unfold the sheet of paper, show it to the camera. Okay, so how does this speak to you about how we experience change in our organizations?
It was like a freaking magic trick. That was great.
So,
and those were 3 simple directions. I mean, they were very simple, clear directions.
Now, I felt particularly generous today, and I actually gave you time to get a piece of paper. But I never told you, make sure that it's a A4, Post-it, label, anything. Yeah. So do we always make sure that people have the resources available, or we just assume it's a freaking sheet of paper? I mean, who doesn't have it on the ready within seconds? Yeah. Also, I assumed that the instructions would be simple. Yeah. Now that speaks, and Sandy, I do see your hand raised. Just if you can bear with me for one minute. In psychology, there is this wonderful cognitive bias called Dunning-Kruger. Has anyone heard of it before? Yeah. So Dunning-Kruger says that as humans, we are fluidly spread across a spectrum. At one end, we have the people who know the least about a topic, and they tend to overestimate themselves because, ironically, they lack the very knowledge that would make them able to accurately assess themselves. And since nature abhors voids, we fill those voids with stories and scenarios and our own projections. At the other end of the spectrum are the people who know most about a topic, and their mistake is to think that everybody has access to pretty much the same information, roughly around the same time, and they will definitely process the information in the exact same way. Now, this end of the spectrum is the senior leadership that sits in the decision-making mode forever and ever. And they're like, why are we still talking about this? We've been talking about this for the past 6 months. Well, maybe you, not the people at the other end, who probably, beside gossip and rumor, have heard nothing, just crickets, and canceled town halls because we have nothing new to communicate and it's still very confidential and we have no clarity. So when I hear that, another question that I ask is, how do you give people clarity over how you will get to clarity? Sometimes that's the only clarity that you can give them. By telling them, this is what we know now, but we will meet every week or every month or every 6 months or every 2 hours. And we are doing this and this and this and this, and this is how you can ask questions and this is how you can contribute. So, Sandy, thank you for being patient.
Absolutely. It kind of goes into the beginning of when you said that I thought was so beautifully said, is the journey of the destination. And when I saw everyone flip up their paper and it was a different design, everyone's eyes has a different vision for that destination. And until you have that clarity, we're all going to have different pieces of paper because we all going to see it with different eyes. I think that's beautiful.
And we also didn't agree what good looked like. So it might be the case, especially in the VUCA or tuna or bunny world that we live in, it might be the case that the right outcome is that we have different looking sheets of paper, as long as we followed the same instructions and the same principles. But we never agreed on that. Just as maybe in highly regulated industries or when there's a high sensitivity to compliance, having the same process and the same outcome is an absolute must. But we never took 20 seconds to say, we need, all of us, we need to end up having the same thing, or it's okay to end up with different outcomes as long as we follow the same principles. Yeah. I never stopped to clarify whether you understood the instructions. Yeah. I never stopped to say everybody has finished the previous step. Yeah. Now imagine in organizations where maybe I didn't open any channels for you to ask for clarification. I didn't even allow for you to align amongst yourselves. Yeah. So I basically took away any visibility and almost any sense of agency from you, assuming that fold a sheet of paper twice into and rip off one corner. We are adults. How difficult can it be? Well, it can. Sometimes I run this exercise with people from all over the world, and some people have difficulties in understanding English or in understanding accents. I remember I ran it once, and there was a guy based in Singapore. He did everything on a tablet. He didn't have a sheet of paper. Yeah. So whenever we talk about change, I run this exercise with all the teams that I'm working with. And I'm like, it's a 1-minute exercise. And we can talk about how this speaks about how we experience change within organizations for at least 1 hour, and all the assumptions and the misperceptions and the lack of clarity that we intentionally or unintentionally create and nurture around us. Anything else that this exercise sparked for you? Thank you, Kimberly. Yeah. I was recently asked to give a chat on change for 2 different leadership teams. And I spoke about the behaviors that tend to come out to play in times of uncertainty and in times of change. And for some reason, I used acronyms also to spark a little bit of humor. There's the category of FOMO behaviors. FOMO stands for fear of missing out. So whether it's good for you, whether it's bad for you, if everybody does it, you will do it because groupthink, yeah, and safety of big numbers. So there's FOMO, and you can see them. The other side of FOMO is JOMO, which is the joy of missing out, where basically is like, simply because everybody else does it, we won't do it. And this is how we will make our statement about change, by being rational about it and not giving in to peer pressure. So these are the 2 sides of the same coin, FOMO and JOMO. Now there's an amazing category called FOFO, which stands for fear of finding out. And this is a category of behaviors that you can see, especially in senior leaders, who tend to go for the first problem, not the deeper problem, because they're like, what if I find something there that I don't have the capacity or the capability or the power to deal with? And one of the first markers of these behaviors is the generosity of applying resistant to change label. I personally don't believe that resistance to change in and of itself is good or bad. I believe that resistance to change is a call for go deeper and understand. And 99.99% of the time, that resistance to change is there to protect something. Someone asked me recently, what would you like your legacy to be? And I was like, fair enough, I'm 45, I'm mathematically closer to 60 than 20, so I should expect now questions around my purpose in life and legacy. And I'm like, okay, let's give it a try. And in my dream world, my legacy would be that in every single change conversation, as soon as we ask, what do we need to change? We also equally intentionally ask, what do we need to preserve? I believe that there is huge value in understanding what people are trying to preserve, just as much as I believe that clarifying questions and just a certain organizational effervescence and noise are not resistance to change, are people looking for sense making. And there's this wonderful, wonderful book called The Leopard. And it's not about change, it's not about organizational development, but it's about history. And he talks about what happened with the Sicilian aristocracy after the Italian War for Independence. And the book basically boils down to, in order for things to stay the same, everything needs to change. And it speaks about how in order for the Sicilian aristocracy to keep their quality of life, their social and political capital, they had to rethink the entire way in which they engaged with the new Italian government and in which they thought about their place in the overall society. And I used this many years ago. I was still in Luxembourg and I was working with a private bank. Now, think about the most conservative environment you've ever been in, multiply that by 1,000, and you will get to some of the, most open conversations we've ever had. So they were going through a digital transformation. And this was a private bank with about 200 years of history across Europe, age average of employees close to 48, about 75% male, and they refused to have laptops, let alone mobile phones, to be able to engage with their customers via a mobile app, because the way in which they did business was having relationships with representatives of generational wealth, and they would have cigars and whiskeys in, incredible locations. So they asked me, would you have a 1 half day, which was a big win after I was offered 30-minute intensive workshop. So would you have a half day intervention to make them embrace the change? And I was like, okay. So I had 2 slides because I thought this can go very bad very quickly, or can go very well very quickly, and then we will use that space for a conversation. You can't change people's minds with a workshop. You change people's minds with conversations. So I had 2 slides. The first slide was think about change as an electrocardiogram, and I actually had an electrocardiogram. And the second one was, in order for things to stay the same, everything needs to change. And we started talking about, okay, what do you need to preserve? In order for you to preserve your market share, your comp and ben structure, your status and your relevance and your reputation, you have to understand that 70-year-olds, as much as they are based in Luxembourg, they are not immortal. So you will need to engage with the 26, 27-year-old unicorns who do their private banking through an app while waiting for the ski lift. And we looked at things that they wanted to preserve. And then what do we need to change in order for things to stay the same? that is one thing that we did. So that is FOFO, yeah, the fear of finding out. You don't want to go there because what you don't know doesn't hurt you. And then another one, which is one of my pet peeves, is the SOS, or the organizational magpies. And that stands for the shiny object syndrome. We do this, and we do this, and then we change this, and then we change this, and then we change that again. And no, we will do this, and then, well, and because we are agile. Well, no, you're actually fragile. And the first thing that we compromise in change is patience. And I remember last year I was running a change conversation with some of my colleagues in finance, and Syngenta is within farming and agriculture, and I was like, oh, I so wanted to use this quote for people who would actually understand. Boy, was I wrong. With a farmer doesn't plant a seed and then digs it up every day to see if something happens. So I put this on the screen and I was like, let's talk. And I heard one of the regional finance heads like, I do that. I dig up a seed. No. Let's not do that. But speaking about funny moments, I remember.
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person
Yeah,
you're trying to reach is not available. At the tone.
I remember I was trying to create a bit of a innovation mindset at the beginning of a change workshop this time with my colleagues in packaging. And I love this saying with don't think outside the box, don't think inside the box, think like there is no box. And these guys in packaging like, what do you mean there's no box? So no, let's come back. Let's come back to reality. But these are the four buckets of behaviors that I see popping up: FOMO, JOMO, FOFO, and SOS. And I think we also are very, very generous and too quick with applying labels of resistant to change or immune to change or change fatigue. And I tell people that I work with, like, be curious, not furious. Before you make a decision, whether it's good or bad, really understand what that is. And understand whether you're at the end of the spectrum where you know almost nothing about it, or you're at the end of the spectrum where you know too much about it and you just don't see the middle. So I will take a small break and would love to hear from you if anything resonated. Just one at a time, that would be great.
You go, Kimberly. You and I had that same issue just a minute ago.
Minola, it all resonated. I think the piece that I'm really taking away is what do we need or want to preserve? I'm really taking that away, and recognizing how much, when I've led teams through large scale change or when I've been navigating it myself, and how valuable that is to really call that out, hold it with its preciousness, and then know that, because that fundamentally was what was always the thing that was underneath that wasn't necessarily getting addressed. And so for me, that's the aha, both for contemplating the changes that I've helped people navigate, and I would even say the changes that I'm trying to inspire people to make now. So that's my big, yes.
Thank you.
What do we want to preserve? Thank you.
Thank you. Tim.
I think that you should send me an invoice for my client, because there's so many notes that I've taken here for my workshop on Wednesday next week that I'm going to use, that there's so much value here. So there's a lot I'm going to use right away. So thank you so much for today.
Thank you.
Minola, I've got a question for you.
Thank you.
When you
Yes.
ask what do you want to preserve, when they give you an answer, do you ask them why they want to preserve it?
Yes, they usually say why right away because they are so invested in preserving it that they already have the business case at the ready. And it's almost never about a process or a task. It's about a relationship. So I started a piece of amazing work with a colleague of mine. She's the head of product safety, and they are going through a global initiative for audit readiness. And we were looking at some of the findings, and we were thinking, okay, what can we say to bring people out of this is not about tasks, but this is about how we interact with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope this stays with us. It was a 10 p.m. in Switzerland call. I had drinks with two friends in the meantime, so I felt particularly inspired. So I came up with this slide that said, broken processes break relationships. And that is their cover slide for the campaign. And it's okay if something doesn't work and puts tension on how we work together, that ultimately impacts on how people perceive their value, in how people perceive that they come into conversations. And at the end of the day, people want to preserve relationships, a source of validation or a perceived source of identity, because at the end of the day, still most of us place the sources for those in the work that we do. So anything that touches on our perceived sense of status, reputation, credibility, legitimacy, professionalism, then it's a big no. I'm not changing that. Duck off. So that's usually what happens. And when it comes to change communication, I always talk about the rider elephant path model. And I am so sorry that Google took it and rebranded it and completely fucked it over, pardon my French, but it had to come out. So the rider elephant path model, when it comes to change communication, speaks about the fact that the rider is our rational part, the elephant is our emotional part, and the path is our need for practical clarity. And I love this original model because between the rider and the elephant, there's this striking visual difference in both size and agility. And Google rebranded it into head, heart, hands. Too sober to talk about it. And I tell people we do several mistakes. The first one is to think that, especially within the workplace, we are almost exclusively rational, responsible adults. We are not. We have huge emotional lives in our workplaces. So don't just give people business cases and facts and figures. Yeah. And when they tell me, okay, but what do I talk about emotions? And I'm like, anything that talks about safety, security, reputation, validation, that's emotional right there. And then another mistake that we make, we assume that the practical is embedded in the business case, and that what we end up with is people saying, oh, I did agree to this project, but I didn't imagine the amount of work that it would entail. And the amount of work is under the practical. So always think rider elephant path. And Tim, by the way, no invoice, but when we do get to meet in person, I will take royalties in ice cream and coffee. And if I can help with anything, not just Tim, but anyone, reach out. You can find me on LinkedIn. I will start to use Mighty Networks regularly again, but LinkedIn, don't be a stranger. I would love to keep in touch. And once again, thank you so very much for being here. It means the world to me.
Buy the book. Buy the book.
Thank
Minola,
you.
you are so damn smart. Oh my goodness. Smart and funny, which is phenomenal combo. So much wisdom. That was fantastic.
Thank
And I
you.
think it doesn't matter what you do, like everybody can take stuff away from that. Really, really good.
And speaking about the emotional labor that we don't acknowledge. By the way, Scott, I know we're using your Zoom. Do you have a hard stop, or do you still have a couple of minutes?
I'm good.
Okay. So I got curious about this topic, and then it grew into fascination, and now I am full-blown obsessed with it. And the project that I mentioned at the beginning, I am actually applying to a professional doctorate in London, and the topic is vicarious and secondary trauma and compassion fatigue in change practitioners, because we never speak about it. And I believe that people who actually do change work because they have a calling for it are in a perfect storm. They have their own inner reconciliation work that they have to go through. They get pressure from senior leadership, oftentimes, to do things or to enable experiences across organizations that trigger their values and principles. And at the same time, they are the face of something profoundly disruptive and uncomfortable to the organization. So they get the first wave of backlash. And it's this shitstorm that we never talk about, because what is there to talk about? You're applying the methodology. So what emotional traumas do you have? And the reason why I wanted to go for it within a professional doctorate is because I wanted to give the topic, and whatever the topic will naturally grow into through research, a space of credibility and legitimacy. So nobody can shoot it down by saying, oh, this perimenopausal change manager who hasn't found the right therapist and has issues, which I do. Yeah, so I hope that if they say yes, I can reach out to the community and I can ask for your help with some research.
1000%. And I would give you a big hug if I could.
I am nervous shitless, but yeah.
Oh my God, you're gonna kill it.
Can I raise both hands? Can I raise my whole body? I'm like,
love it.
Minola, we definitely need to have a chat about this conversation, because I've lived that side of the life for sure. And realistically, I can look at it and say that was a part of what had me step out of consulting.
Yes.
Yeah. It was a part that had me step out. So
thank you.
I'm with you.
So good. Tim, I feel like there's a paper exercise coming for your client. I have a premonition.
You're bang on. I know exactly where that's going in the session, and there is 100% going to be. So absolutely.
But Tim, I have another one for you, and this resonates with so many people. I have a slide. I will actually share it with you. I was working with the team in legal ops, and they were struggling with some voice of the customer, not efficient, not effective, not productive. And they were obsessed with productivity. So I asked them, like, how do you visualize productivity? If you had to put productivity in an image, how would that look for you? And they all came up with this, it's this flight of stairs that we have to climb. So for those of you who don't know, I have chronic insomnia. So I'm super happy for any rabbit holes that I fall into at like 4 a.m. And I started putting together things for the workshop, and then I said, fuck it, no, it's not good enough. And I started reading about why we have landings on staircases. So I spent an entire night on architecture and building websites. And there are 3 reasons why we have landings. One is to rest, because even marathon runners run out of breath when going up a flight of stairs, because although we flex pretty much the same muscles, we flex them with different frequency and with different intensity. The second one is so that we can change direction. We cannot change the direction of a staircase if we don't have a landing. And the third one is so that we can open a door safely onto the staircase. So I built this slide and I asked them, in our obsession for productivity and change and effectiveness and efficiency, how do we build in landings where we can rest, where we can actually take a moment and see whether we actually need to change direction? And how do we allow for new in our project, whether that's the meaningful onboarding of a new team member, whether that's new information, whether that's a new skill, whether that's a new priority setting. And this goes back to the comment that the first thing that we compromise on is patience. And we are forever in a reaction and seldom in a response mode when we go through transformations. So I can share my slide with you, and that's a very powerful question when you talk to people why we have landings on staircases and you ask them, so how do you look for landing? What's your landing? When was the last time you were on a landing? And if you really want to shock senior leaders, ask them casually, when was the last time you simply stared out the window? Yeah.
Powerful stuff. Man, you brought your A plus 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 game tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Holy moly. I don't even want to throw this away. I might frame mine.
You will laugh, but about 80% of the people that I run this exercise with, they keep that sheet of paper as a reminder and they keep it on their desk.
Yeah, it's a really good reminder. That, yeah. Minola, thank you so much. I know it's a Friday night, but man, means the world to me. And I saw Sandy was furiously taking notes. She was from word 1. She was taking notes like a crazy person. She's brand new, so this was her first exposure to anything Outlier project. I literally just got off my kind of initiation call with her. So to say that you left a great impression would be an understatement. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And you as you will read through my book, 2022 was a traumatic, is the sweetest way in which I can describe it, journey through the publishing world. And I got so many rejections on the manuscript of my book because it's a collection of everyday instances and what they teach me about change management. And the rejections that I got most often sounded like, these anecdotes are nice, but write a serious book about change management. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like a methodology, like write about a methodology. And I'm like, that's exactly the thing that I fight against. And at one point I lost my temper and I asked a publisher and I said, I will wait on the line until you can give me one thing that is more serious than reminding humans to be profoundly human. And I will wait here and you can invoice me your hourly rate. So, now Jason, I think, yeah, Abraham Maslow said that to a man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And I keep telling people that change is always a three-legged stool, and it has mindset, skill set, and tool set. But we are obsessed with tool set because they bring the promises of linear processes and of progress that we can quantify in a way that keeps us delusionally comfortable.
Well,
So,
Minola,
thank you.
You're the best. And Tim, I think this Canada Switzerland connection might be a newfound friend.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
Yeah.
this was well worth the
Thank
hour
you.
and a bit. So thank you so much. There's so much great stuff here.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm looking for it now.
Much
Thank you,
love
Minola.
and
Let's
big love.
let's catch up.
Ciao. Happy change, everyone.
Bye, Minola.
And
Love
please
you.
don't, love you too. Don't say change management. Say change work. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Ciao.
See ya.
Bye.
Ciao.
So good.